I want to thank everyone for coming. This is the Congress Park Neighbors RNO meeting. Congress Park Neighbors has been a registered neighborhood organization for more than 40 years. We have an all-volunteer board with more volunteers leading projects. Our goal is to provide accurate information to neighbors about the neighborhood, issues that city government is deciding on and managing. Your board does not take a position on any issue or at any city meeting without first polling those affected neighbors to ensure true representation. We welcome homeowners and renters alike. This meeting is being recorded, and please direct your questions to the chat as much as possible. Tonight, Art Mejia, who's the head of solid waste management at DOTI, is joining us, and he is going to talk to us about the trash changes that have been taking place in Congress Park. I sent Art a list of questions that have been raised by neighbors, and I'm asking him to try and address those tonight. So welcome, Art. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to answer. Obviously, you sent me some questions. And I have a small presentation to go over and then answer any additional questions that anyone may have.
Art, I've allowed you to share.
Okay.
So you're okay with that?
And please bear with me. We usually don't use Zoom in the city. So I'm going to try to do the best that I can with this technology. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
All right. Do this. All good?
All good.
All right, let's jump right into it. I have about 17 slides, and these are the questions that I received on email. So I did my best to try to answer, for the most part, all of the questions. And I believe there's also Ken. Ken Arguello is with us. He was invited to the meeting. I can't see his name, but I'm assuming he's.
I'll look for him.
There he is.
Yeah, I'm here.
He's part of the operations team. And obviously my name is Art Mejia, and a little bit of history about me. I have over 18 years of solid waste management experience. Ken has over 20 years experience in operations. And Ken has been with the city of Denver for those 20 years. My experience, it's mainly in the private sector with Republic Services. At my last role, I managed one of the largest hauling units in California. Had 265 employees, 150 collection routes, and managed every single line of business within the business unit. Roll-off, commercial, in delivery, and residential business, which is what we have in the city of Denver. In that business unit, we did about $100 million a year in revenue. It was a pretty large business unit. And within that unit, I managed 12 different city contracts. And we serviced over 500,000 residents in Northern California. And we'll get straight into the questions that I received. Just to give you a little bit of context with the residents that we service here in Denver. We service about 182,000 residents here, and it's mainly residential service that we have in the city of Denver. So the first question was, in my presentation to the city council meeting on July 27, that I provided some inaccurate and incomplete map of Congress Park. Could you please provide a map of the complete statistical neighborhood with coding regarding the type of pickup in each block? The map that we provided to the council members was the one of the affected areas in Congress Park. It was not the complete statistical neighborhood map. And I have that map here with us. This is the affected area. And I believe we have shared this with this group already. Then we provided a detail area, a detailed map of the area that was excluded. And for this presentation, I've included the whole map for Congress Park. The yellow sections are the curb pickup areas, and then the blue section, it's the alley pickup that we still have in Congress Park. On the next question, you stated in your presentation that solid waste preferred alley pickup. If this is true, who outside of solid waste made or influenced your decision? The decisions that we make at solid waste are team decisions, and the team, it's compiled of me, the director. We have a manager, and we have an operations staff. We have 3 field superintendents. We have an up support person, which is Ken, and also we have field supervisors. So any decisions that we make, such as the one in Congress Park, it's a team decision from solid waste. This was a decision that is made from solid waste only and completely. There was no outside influences from the city, just solid waste management. And we based that decision on the safety of the employees. We based that decision on trying to reduce property damage within that section in Congress Park. We look at efficiencies, and also we took a look at the current practice that we have in Congress Park for recycling and compost. The rationale for the change from alley to curb was given as the need for increased safety for employees, potential damage to private property, increased efficiencies, and a greener, more environmentally sensitive process. Could you please provide data specific to Congress Park about the amount of property damage that has occurred? I do have a graph, and I have detailed data behind this graph. I will show you in a minute. From October 2019 to July of 2021, we have had 3 incidents on the streets in Congress Park. We have had, I believe this is 12 or 14 alley incidents. We have had 4 where the alley is a little wide. So we measure the type of accidents and the type of alleys where we're having incidents. And we had 1 incident in a parking lot in Congress Park. I will show you some details. Hopefully this works. Can you see that?
No, nothing's coming through, right?
It's what?
Nothing's coming through.
No?
Also,
And this is what I was. So I have a spreadsheet that details all of the incidents that we have. And it gives you a description of what type of incident and what happened there. And obviously I'll make this presentation available for anyone who would want it after this. And that information is going to be included in there. And it technically outlines the specifics of the incidents that we have had in Congress Park since October of 2019. The next question I received was, how is it more efficient and better for the environment for one driver to idle a truck and get out and move bins for individual customers up and down hills and steps? So one thing we have to remember that we service about 182,000 homes per week. When we take a look at the residents that we have to help, they are a very small percentage of customers in comparison to our routes. On efficiencies, we follow the current practice for recycle and composting, right? Our drivers service between 1,000 to 1,200 homes per day, depending on the commodity and the route density. So to give you an example, if that route has 16 customers where he has to get out and move a container, it's more efficient to do that than to send a separate truck through the back alley with additional resources within that truck. And that is the analogy, or that is how we determine what is the most efficient way of servicing our customers. How many requests for help were denied and why? Who decides who is eligible? What are the criteria? Are you aware many neighbors were able to move trash to the alley, but are not able to overcome the many steps and lack of access to the street? There were 3 requests that we did not, they were not denied. However, when our ops team showed up to the properties to do an assessment for the residents just told our team they did not need any accommodations. They just wanted to voice their opinions with someone in solid waste management, and they just wanted someone to hear their concerns, which we did. We received about 45 emails directly into customer service, myself and Margaret. And out of those 45 emails, there was 16 exceptions, I believe 17 exceptions that we made to help residents in Congress Park. For the most part, I'm going to say that probably 100% of the people that requested help, if they had a valid reason, they got assistance from solid waste. I am aware of the challenges that this is in that area, and that is the reason why we provided our alternative solutions for our residents there.
Art,
Yes.
can you tell me does the person have to have a disability statement from their doctor? Who decides when you go out? How do you know if a person is challenged enough?
So when we go out there and do an assessment, we talk to the resident that lives there, right? We did not have to get to the point where we were requiring a medical excuse from any resident. We didn't get to the point. We believe our residents that called in for help, they have the need for that help, right? So I can tell you that we did not request one single medical exception from any resident. On to the next one.
I have a follow-up question to that.
Yes.
So if you don't require them to substantiate it, why do you come out to the site to meet with them to do a quote unquote assessment? What does that assessment entail? And why isn't their statement sufficient evidence that they called in, they said, hey, I need assistance? Why is there a subsequent appointment set up where then people come out and have to meet with that resident to make a determination?
So we want to make sure that the people that need our service are the ones getting our service, right? We take a look at the property. We take a look at the steps. We take a look at how your property is set up. For the most part, once again, we are trusting the residents. We did not get 200 requests where we would have to make a determination and start requiring residents for a medical exemption, which we could probably have done if we wanted to, right? So we're taking the word from our residents and we're trying to help them out. This is not about making it difficult for people with disabilities to get our services. So we are here to help them, and we're trying to make it easy. We did not find any person that was trying to abuse the system. And for that reason, we take the word of the residents. If we had 200, 300 requests, then we would have, made a different procedure or process to follow.
I have to caution you that probably if you were to look at the statistics, more than 20% of people in the neighborhood have some kind of disability. Would that disability prohibit them from a trash receptacle? I don't know. They may have intellectual, they may have memory issues, they may have all kinds of other issues. But I'm just saying, you have to understand under the ADA, you may not have the authority to make that decision. So when you're out meeting with people, That's why we're asking, what is that assessment? Because my concern is, this is more of an ableist agenda, where if you're able-bodied, you're fine. If you're not able-bodied, you have to prove yourself and meet with someone at Public Works or Solid Waste Management. And that may be intimidating for a lot of people for a variety of reasons. They may have vision issues. They may have issues that you can't even, they may have, balance issues, coordination issues that are not readily available. I've come to appreciate that with RTD's determination of whether or not somebody is disabled, because the same issue, somebody may be capable one day, not capable the next, and then capable the following week. That is the nature of disability. So I'm concerned that the assessment involves a meeting and you want to see if people have the veracity of truthfulness, but how do you know that? You're not involving any of the requisite organizations and expertise to make any kind of determination, and it may in fact be a civil rights violation.
Well, at this point, we have not denied any of the requests. We have technically approved all of the requests that have come through. So I'm not sure if we're violating any civil rules within the city. We have not denied anyone access to our services for any reason.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question?
Wait, let's hold up. I started this, I'm sorry. Let's let Art finish his presentation and he can take all our questions afterwards. Okay, sorry, everyone. Go ahead, Art.
Well, Art, I'm going to add real quick on the assessment. Part of the reason going there is also to figure out where you're going to leave the cart out and kind of some locations and stuff. It's not always about the disability. It's, you got to make a compromise. You're going to leave the cart right here so we know where the driver can pick it up at. So what side of the house, you're going to leave it behind the gate right here. That's a lot of the part of the assessment also. It's not just checking the disability. It's just, we got to come to.
Great point, Ken.
We're going to leave
Thank
stuff.
you. Thank you for that. So we'll move on to the next question I have is, why does it all need to go to the street when previously it was being picked up in the alley? Several neighbors saw a small truck going down 12th Avenue, picking up trash that would fit in any alley in Congress Park. Why are they not being used in the alleys? We use automated trucks for street setouts. It is safer for our employees, and those trucks can pick up around 1,000 containers per day, and they only require one operator. We do have smaller trucks that service tighter areas than Congress Park, where there's absolutely no other option. The street is not an option. Those trucks are smaller, and they only hold 1/3 of the load of a regular size truck. So those trucks have to do 3 trips, where a regular size truck is only doing 1 trip. We have no other option in those areas, and that's the reason why we send those smaller trucks there. Do you have data on the number of curb cuts in Congress Park that are not related to commercial or large family buildings that you do not service? This lack of driveways, 100-year-old architecture, and the geography of Congress Park is the basis for the resistance to this change. And in solid waste, we do not have that information available. Sorry for that. Do you anticipate a decrease in recycle and compost because getting bins out is too difficult? We do not at this point. All the recycling and composting subscribers were already setting their carts on the street. So for that reason, we do not see any, we do not anticipate any decrease in recycling and composting there. 311 does not work. You stated at the July 27th presentation that this would be a change. When would that take place? How many complaints have you received? We received about 30 complaints about Pocket Gov, not 311. So there's two different avenues that we have to collect information. The change that happened in Pocket Gov was that in order for you to create a ticket, you needed to create an account in Utilities Online. We are working with our technology teams, and we recently promoted a program manager that is going to head that part of Pocket Gov, and it's going to address that concern. At this point, I do not have any timeline when that will be fixed, but we are working to get that fixed for the residents as soon as possible. The program manager was just promoted last week. When was the last time solid waste was audited? We were audited in 2018. However, our composting program gets audited every year due to the nature of that program. And I believe we have an audit coming up here either in 2022 or 2023. And that's all the questions I received. Now I'm open to answer any additional questions that anyone may have.
I've got a quick follow-up from what Elaine was talking about. On my street, the change you're making was actually quite big due to the steps in the front, and I've got elderly people who live on the street. And you may be correct, in the summertime, this may be fine. What about in the wintertime when there's ice and snow and people are supposed to bring the containers down, especially maybe some of the elder people or people with disabilities? Will you be offering assistance then? And then my more general question is, we discussed all of this, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and solid waste had purchased smaller vehicles because of the alley and the nature of Congress Park. As we found out about your decision after the fact, you didn't have any outreach before, you didn't ask questions, which is really concerning because you made an operational change and we just have to deal with the fallout. I don't consider that good management. And I don't know if you got rid of the trucks already, but the reason they purchased the smaller trucks was because of the alleys. And I understand your operational simplicity to just use the bigger trucks on the street. But in areas where we've gotten smaller streets and lots of parking on the streets, you're now asking us to put 3 containers out on the street when sometimes we can't even get the containers between the cars. So there are some other operational logistics that just were not dealt with. So in the big picture of things, it's just kind of, you're just saying, okay, you guys have to deal with this. And I just find that a very poor decision to not involve the constituents of the trash collection. You know, it's like you guys need to talk to the people about plans, concerns, and your points are valid. It's just, why are you leaving everyone out? These are big changes. You're spending money. It unfortunately makes the city look really bad. It's like, we really don't care what you're just going to deal with what we give you. So those are my concerns, and I guess that's my viewpoint.
Yeah, and I'll address some of those concerns. I can tell you that, you know, I'm new to the city, right? I came from the private sector, and I'm gonna take a complete ownership on the communication piece. I came from the private sector, and we did certain things differently, and that's not an excuse, but that's a learning experience for me coming into a city and managing this department. I don't know. I was not here when these trucks were purchased or promised, but I can also tell you that at this point in our life with COVID and trying to run the solid waste department as efficient as we can, because we are short-staffed, we're trying to do our best to pick up on any efficiencies that we could pick up in order for our residents to continue getting service. I can tell you that we have not cut any collection routes where the private haulers are thinking about reducing services. And I can tell you left and right, I have a private hauler company that comes into my house. I live in Centennial. And we just got a letter that they're cutting services because of staff. And we're not to that point because we're making other arrangements to make sure that we are providing the basic services. And I don't want to get to the point where we are cutting the basic services to our residents. You know, I can tell you another private hauler that is going to be picking up trash bi-weekly. You know, they're thinking about cutting service, trash service to bi-weekly. Can you just imagine if we did that to the city of Denver? And because of that, we are trying to think of different ways to get our department as efficient as we can to continue to provide the services with the resources that we have. And I know it's you know, probably not what you want to hear for Congress Park, but when we're managing this solid waste department, it's for 182,000 residents, and we have to think about the solutions for the whole city.
Art, there's a question being asked about the guidelines on where residents should place their bins, specifically in front of their own residence. And is there any enforcement or penalty for people that don't comply? I certainly have seen over and over again myself, bins are competing directly with parked cars. So how are you going to manage that?
Well, I can tell you right now that we do this all over the city, right? You have to, and every single day it could be different for you where you need to place your container. And all we need, it's about 3 feet between containers to pick it up. Our guys are professional drivers. Once again, we do this all over the city. You put your container in front of your house. We're not going to give you a ticket if it's too close, because we understand the circumstances. I've yet to, and I'm not sure, Ken, maybe you can jump in here, but have we ever given a citation to anyone or a warning for not placing the container in the right location?
No, sir, we have not.
Yeah, so our guys are pretty good. They're professionals. We're going to try to service that. That's what they do every single day out there. We're not out there to try to leave you on notice that we're not going to pick up your container because you didn't set it correctly. Our guys are out there, and their goal is to service your container every single day. So, you know, you don't need to worry about following the rules to the T. We would like you to do that. But, you know, we also understand that there could be some space constraints sometimes.
Eleni, go ahead. Eleni?
Sorry, I just had to unmute. I had a question about those smaller trucks because that issue came up, and I know that public funds were spent that taxpayers paid for. So I appreciate that you're coming from the private sector, and the private sector, you're right. You know, people have choices when you pay for your trash through a private service. If you don't get weekly, you can opt in or opt out. But here's the thing, our taxes have done nothing but gone up. Sales tax has gone up. It's very regressive, especially to people who are on fixed incomes, like elderly, people with disabilities, other people. And there was talk last year or the year before last, prior to the pandemic, to making trash not part of the general fund anymore. Solid waste would be a fee-for-service program. So our concerns are that this is kind of one step in that direction. We were promised the smaller trucks. They were purchased with city funds. My question is, where are those smaller trucks? What routes are they being used on? If they're not being used in Congress Park, are they being used in other areas where people have figured out that, you know, that's the situation? So that's kind of my concern, because we feel like kind of a little bit bait and switch. We're constantly, the city comes to us and says, hey, we want to raise your taxes. We need to buy these things. We say, okay, that makes sense. You need to have the right type of equipment to do the job in older neighborhoods. We live in older neighborhoods, fine. We'll pay for it. And then a couple years later, nope, that's not going to happen. That's not happening. We can't use those trucks. I mean, if you're having a driver shortage, you really need to work with HR and recruitment and training. And I can tell you 100 different job training programs that the city could have embarked on. You have a job training program in the city right now. You have an office that does that for you. So when you say you can't find people, we're sort of frustrated. Because I'm always trying to help people find employment, and I'm like, hey, where's the city on this issue? So those are some of my comments and questions. Where are the trucks? Where's the accountability and transparency? Because that's what we were told. in addition to the other comments I made. I mean, I just have a lot of issues with the way that this was rolled out, how it was seemed to be done in certain neighborhoods that were told we needed to purchase these trucks. I mean, the city can't keep coming to us asking us for more money, and then we pay for it, and then a couple years later, well, no, that's not going to work now. Okay, well, I don't think any of us are getting a refund if or anything like that. So that's our concerns. I get you come from the private sector, but this is a public sector situation, and there is just public funds really matter, how they're spent, used, and how people are treated when they have a disability, they're elderly, they're low income, they're on fixed incomes, and being told, here's what you have to do.
And I don't have, this is new to me. I've never heard anything about the smaller trucks being promised. I mean, I can find out and maybe provide an update on what happened to those trucks, but I was not here, so I'm not able to comment on that.
I could pipe in a little bit. I was one of the ones who met with Jeannie Robb. This was like in 2006 when we pulled recycling out of the alley, because that's when we went to a cart system and it didn't fit in there with the trucks going through there. We did meet with her, we talked. She said the only thing that was guaranteed there is that we'd try our best to find a narrow truck that would fit in there. And to this day, we still cannot find an automated truck that would fit down there when the carts are all out at the same time. We just haven't found it. And that was back in, I believe, 2006 when we met with Jeannie Robb.
It was my understanding, I remember those conversations. I wasn't there with Jeannie Robb, but it was an issue of the larger trucks you were using would not fit in the alleys. And so the point is we were told solid waste was going to purchase smaller trucks, and I assume older trucks. And then they were going to just go down the alleys and pick up the trash. And that had been what was happening all of this time. So this change just happened. So I'm sorry, for the director to say he doesn't know about it, well, you need to find out about it. This is the history of your organization. And we were told these trucks were purchased just because of these alley conditions. The other trucks were just too big. So these trucks were operational just a few months ago. So did they just evaporate? I guess it's still a bigger question of, you guys made this decision, you had these vehicles, it was this way for a while. I understand the operational costs, but again, it was being handled this way all of this time, and you made this change. And I kind of understand the why, but I just don't think, again, winter's coming, snow, steps, everything else. Does this outreach for assistance help if snow's on the ground?
Yes, absolutely. It will be the same. And when you talk about the trucks that we had there, those were regular sized trucks. They were not smaller trucks. That's the reason why we made the change. And I'm not sure if we purchased any smaller trucks for Congress Park. And do you know if that ever happened?
Nothing was bought specifically for Congress Park.
Okay, so
we brought many manufacturers out there to see if they had a truck that could go down there and pick up on the side. And this day, I still cannot find a manufacturer. I actually had someone bring me a small one today, but I don't think it'll still fit picking up on the side.
Okay, so we were told it was smaller trucks, but it looks like it was just a regular truck with a two-man crew, the guy in the back putting the trash bins inside the thing. But it was working all this time.
Well, it was not really working because we have issues with our trucks going through the alleys. If you drive through the alleys, you can see the light poles getting damaged. We've hit light poles before. We hit gutters, fences, garage doors, because these trucks are bigger than normal trucks. In addition to having at least two people to operate those trucks. So that's the reason why we decided to change. And also, these routes, these type of routes are some of the most difficult routes for our employees. And the turnover in those routes, it's the highest turnover that we have in solid waste, because people don't like to perform that type of work day in and day out. These guys are walking the alleys, picking up between 600 and 700 homes a day, and walking many miles. So those were the reasons why we decided to make the change from those trucks.
Art, can you speak to, are there any other neighborhoods that you're making these changes in, like Washington Park or other older areas? Are you making this change there?
At this point, we don't have specific neighborhoods yet. We are looking at, as I mentioned at the DOTI meeting, we're going to make a huge change here in January. We're rerouting the whole city. We are changing the way that our routes operate. At this point, I don't have. I can tell you that there's a minimal chance that we will make any more of these changes, because these changes were already made when they went to a cart system. This was one of the areas that was not changed for I don't know what reasons. But the main changes that we're making is within our routes, not necessarily the set out of the carts. However, I don't want to make any promises and say that we're not gonna look into that. If after we come up with our new routing maps and routing system, see an opportunity to pick up some efficiencies, we might do that.
I have two follow-up questions with that.
Mm-hmm.
So does Washington Park have alleys that trucks go down and you pick up all the bins there?
Ken, can you help me with that one?
Yes, we do, but those alleys are wider.
And can we anticipate more changes in what you're doing in January in Congress Park?
The only thing that's going to change in January for most residents is your day, your setup day. You're gonna get plenty of communication on this. You can have my word on that. We will let you know. If you are affected, we will send you a map of your new service day. That's the only thing that's changing from a resident standpoint. If you went on a Friday or Tuesday, you might go on a Monday or Wednesday, but you will get plenty of notice.
Yeah, just to follow up to Kyle's question too, what are the widths of alleys? It sounds like if that's the determinant factor that solid waste is now using, I'd like to know, because I think there are a lot of neighborhoods that are fairly similar, maybe within a centimeter or inch of Congress Park, that are not being affected. So what is that sort of determinant factor? And I don't want to think about accidents, because too often Public Works, DOTI says accidents are a determinant factor to decide to make an improvement in an intersection. We know that doesn't always happen either. So I need to know, I mean, that to me is the fact that somebody has an accident shouldn't be the reason why we change everything. So what is that width that you need? And what is the width of Congress Park versus Wash Park versus Bellevue Hale versus City Park, Whittier, all the various kind of inner city neighborhoods, if you will, so that we can see how we quote unquote measure up?
When you take a look at the alleys, right? And I showed you the map, and maybe I should share the map again. It will make a little bit more sense to me. Let me pull that up. So when you take a look at an area, and here's a perfect example. You have curb pickup and then you have alley pickup. Not everybody in that general area gets the same service. And not all these alleys are the same size. So it could be that you might have 1, 2, 3, or 4 blocks within this area here that doesn't necessarily need street pickup, but because it's just gonna make more sense for us to place everything in the street instead of having to send an additional truck that will then defeat the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish. So that's how we take a look at the alleys. We take a look at the big picture. And that's the reason why you have, that's the reason why you have these 2 blocks in here within this whole area. It just doesn't, these alleys, you cannot, you have enough room here, but you don't have enough room here, right? So,
Right, but what is the room? That's what I'm asking, kind of. I get what you're saying, but what is that width that you need? So if we wanted to go out to Wash Park on a field trip, we could measure the alley and go, geez, theirs is the same exact as all the alleys along one particular street.
if you want a
down
measurement,
to 7th or 6th Avenue,
Yeah.
and we go, hey, those are all the same. And so is the one next door, the street next to it, and the one next to it, and the one next to it. So you would get that efficiencies, right, that you're talking about.
right?
But we're being held to a different standard. So I'm just trying to understand that.
So we don't have a specific measurement, right? But we can get that for you if you would like to have a measurement. We can go out there and measure the smaller alleys that we're having difficulty with getting through, and then where we're having the most accidents. We measure by when the truck drives by, and the drivers are the ones that are telling us that they don't have enough space to maneuver. And I've driven through some of those alleys, and they're different widths, right? They are different sizes. Every alley, not every alley, but there's a lot of alleys that are very different in sizes. And it happens all over the city. Congress Park is not the only neighborhood where we place containers out on the curb. There's a 50% of the homes we pick up in Denver, they're alley pickups, and the other 50% is curb. So we take a look at a lot of different factors to make determinations of where the pickup should be.
It seems subjective.
Maggie, go ahead, and then Kyle.
Well, I just have a comment, and the comment is, so the alley pickup that we have is on between Fillmore and Detroit, Colfax to 14th. Previously, we always had a truck that came down with 2 people who picked up the carts and loaded it up, and it was very efficient. In fact, they could go down that alley within about 5 minutes. Now, what we're seeing with these sidearm trucks is that the driver has to stop at the mouth of the alley on 14th Street, and he physically walks down to Colfax and rearranges the bins so that they can be picked up adequately. And then he goes back up. This is a lot of work for him to do. And it's also time consuming too, because now it's 15 to 20 minutes, dependent upon what he has to do. So that's just my comment on Just My Street.
And to that comment, just to give you a little bit of context on why they do that, right? And I mentioned before that our drivers are picking up between 1,000 and 1,200 containers. So yeah, they might do that 15 minutes there in your area, but throughout his whole route, it's a lot more efficient where he's picking up those 15 minutes somewhere else, and they're finishing up at the same times when they finish at the end of the day. And that's how we measure the efficiencies that we have. So yes, you're gonna have some areas where it might seem to you that the driver is not efficient because he has to get out and move containers. But when you take a look at the overall, it is very efficient. This is a process. This is a process that we don't only do in the public sector, but we also do it in the private sector. This service is offered to many people in order for us to be more efficient when you take at the overall productivity for that one single route.
I appreciate that, Art, and I'll bear that in mind. However, I do have to tell you that since this change has occurred, not only do we see one truck going down the alley, but within the day, we'll have the same truck come back down our alley in the other direction. Sometimes we'll have a trash truck come down 3 times down our alley. That doesn't make sense to me.
I would have to know the specifics on that specific route. We have the ability to track miles and productivity for our guys. And I can tell you that our measurements and numbers that come out of Congress Park are pretty standard with everyone else. So I'm not able to give you a comment if I don't know the specifics of that driver on that specific day.
Kyle, you had a question. Go ahead.
I don't know that I have a specific question other than that I think Art, I've spoken with you personally, and I've spoken with Margaret, and I appreciate you all coming out. I think you've heard our concerns. I don't see any action being taken. I understand from your perspective that you're trying to make efficiencies, but I do wish you will take a look at the blocks of Garfield between, I believe, 12th and 11th, and Fillmore between 10th and 9th, where we have 2 great elementary schools where we have young children getting into the schools and parents parking along those streets. Just today, I'm not sure what's going on at this school on Fillmore, but there were cars jam-packed on both sides of Fillmore today. So I don't know how you would get trash cart bins down there. I just think you need to take those into consideration, at least into your route planning. And I just want you to think about that when you're doing your route planning.
Yeah, definitely. And so those are some of the things that we take a look at when we plan the overall routing system that we have. As far as the container placement, we know that around school areas, that is limited. However, what we try to do is not to send our drivers at the time where school starts or school is ending. And those are some of the operational details that we work with within our routing department, which is Ken. So yeah, we take a look at all that. But thanks for that.
I think I can appreciate what you're saying about timing, but I think one of the issues Kyle was saying is the bins are already out there, the cars are already parked on the street. Now you have parents trying to also use that street to discharge their children. And so the streets are narrow, and you've now just added more to what has already been a real difficult situation in Congress Park. We have a lot of safety issues with traffic around our schools, and we're not getting very much support from DOTI on that. And now this has been overlaid, and it's all been happening in the summer, but it's been raised again and again. The weather is going to change, and I appreciate there are other neighborhoods that might be able to make this transition easily, but the geography of Congress Park, it's almost as if you're ignoring that. We have architecture with no curb cuts, no driveways. Some do, some homes do, but the majority don't. And it's creating, I think people would try very hard to be cooperative, but the challenges you've created, and I know you also touched on helping people that need it. Someone I spoke to this week who has a very difficult balance issue couldn't get through to you couldn't find you, couldn't set anything up. There's so many layers. And we haven't even gotten to school in winter yet. I guess part of the meeting is to challenge you on whether you really have made good choices here with the level of granular detail we're trying to share with you tonight.
And the only thing I can tell you is as we look into Congress Park specifically and the new routing changes, that we'll take a look at all these and the comments that I got today. We'll take a second look at the routing system that we have there and see if we can improve the systems that we have just by listening to you all tonight.
Anna, did you have a question?
Well, it's a question comment, more of a comment. I wanted to know if Art and Ken are familiar with the Aging in Place initiative for senior citizens for the city of Denver. It's an initiative that the city proudly proposes that anyone who wants to age in place in their home, they will be supported. Are you both familiar with that?
I am not.
Okay, well, I think you probably should take a look at it, because when this last change came out, I work with senior citizens every day. And so I corresponded with over 100 extremely upset Congress Park senior citizens who were crying and couldn't figure out how they were going to get their trash cans down the stairs from the alley to the front of their house because they don't have driveways. Every other house on my block does not have a driveway. Most of the blocks near me are set up the exact same way. I'm a senior citizen as well. I'm on the younger side, but my 96-year-old mother is still alive. So I plan to live in this house until I am 96 years old. And to agree that when any little old lady or little old man can take the little trash that they create and get it out their back door and to the bins that were forced on everyone. I mean, everyone didn't want that either, but they all took those smaller bins and they maneuver those. But to expect them to get them now out of their garage, around the corner, to the front of their house and get it back, particularly in winter, goes against every principle of the Aging in Place initiative. And this seems to be discriminatory against senior citizens. If this city is being planned for young people only, that is just a sad, sad statement.
And well, that brings me back to the point that we are providing a service for the senior citizens to help them out. And all they have to do is request that help from us, and we will be more than willing to go out there and help them out. There are different options for different people. One of the options that we have for people is to request a smaller trash can, which quite a few people from Congress Park ended up doing. They requested a smaller trash can. Another option we have is to walk the containers over to the mouth of the alley, which is actually more efficient than anything else. It's even more efficient than to placing containers in front of your street. And at the end of the day, if someone needs help, we are here to help them. We're not gonna leave them out there on their own. All they need to do is request the help from DOTI and solid waste. And I'm here to tell you that you will get that help. We're not gonna leave anybody on service because they cannot move their container to the street. That is something that I can tell you tonight that we're not going to do.
Okay, well, I will share that with them, because I know a lot of them communicated with me because they know how to get a hold of me. About half of those people they're not internet savvy. They call you on the phone. And unfortunately, another thing that senior citizens have a tendency to do, no one wants to face their own aging and their mortality. And so they will fall before they will ask for help. My own mother fell 5 times before she finally confessed to me, and she made me promise that I would not tell my sister that she had fallen because she didn't want to ask for help. And I just can't imagine the safety of seniors is not much more important than the safety of some gutter or garage door or phone pole. And they won't tell you. I see an accident happening, and the thought of having a senior citizen. My mother ended up having to have brain surgery because she fell 5 times. She had a hematoma of the brain. And all of that could have been prevented if she had just told someone. And she interacted with all 3 of her children and the people that came to clean her house and everything else, and she was hiding it. So I can see senior citizens hiding the fact that they no longer can get their trash can out because it's embarrassing to admit that I always used to be able to take my trash. I can do this. I can do this. And the thought of having to see one senior citizen fall and have a potential brain surgery or a hip replacement because the trash couldn't be picked up in the alley, I just want you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Art and Ken, I want to say thank you so much for coming. I think you can see this is a very difficult topic that we're grappling with. And I hope as you approach making routing changes that you will get in contact with us again, maybe before they're implemented. Any improvement would be welcome. But thank you for taking the time to come and speak with us.
You're welcome. And you have my word from now on, any changes that we do for our residents that affect them directly, I will be the first one out communicating to everybody. Once again, I will take this one. This was on me. We know that we should have communicated better. We didn't. And at the end of the day, I'm the head of the department. So this one falls on me, and I'll take full responsibility on that. I can guarantee you that it will not happen again.
I've got a quick follow-up, but I want to let Jacqueline ask her question first.
Hi, Art. I appreciate that you're newer here, and wow, what a welcome.
Thank you.
I do a lot of community work, and I know it can be really challenging, especially stepping into a new role. And I think what I just want to say, one of the things I trust your word, but one of the things that I'm concerned about is that we see employees at the city turnover. And what happens 5 years from now when you're not here and there's someone new, and this is a structural change. And I think about people who, like I was listening to Anna and I was thinking, yeah, what about people who are aging in place? And like, how does something that is so nuanced and subjective become something that structurally people know when to ask? Like if I broke my foot and I had just moved here and it's because it is so, there may be days where I can't take it across the alley. And then how do I get that service? Like on a Sunday night, I hurt myself and then pickups on Monday, or it snows. I can't even barely get the bins across the alley when it snows, let alone down around the corner and all the way around, because I have terracing and big, huge steps and a really steep slope. So I can try that in the summer, but then it just feels like it's like a week to week sort of thing. And it's such a big structural change. And so I would just love if we could consider whether this change really does make sense, considering the layers of impacts for people and how different those impacts are week to week, depending on somebody's physical state or, you being in the position. I trust you, but then somebody new comes in, they don't know this was the deal we made.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the deals we make with the city, I've seen this over now 15 years, then somebody new comes in and they don't know that deal. And so then it's all, I would hope that we can just consider, the downstream impacts. And I know this has been really challenging for you and your team, and y'all came out during COVID, picked up all of our garbage. I think we all appreciate the service that you and your team provide. We're just trying to figure out how to make sure that we don't get stuck in the position we're stuck in when it snows and we can't get our stuff done. So, or whatever happens. So thank you.
No, thank you for that. And once again, we'll take a look at, you know, with the biggest changes are going to happen in January with your service days. And that's when we're going to take a look at and reassess everything that we do for the city. So we'll try to make the best decisions that work well for everybody.
So my follow-up question quickly is, again, the change is structural, and I think what's going to fall to you is the hard job of the logistics of how you're going to handle this. I do think in certain areas, moving the trash cans to maybe the head of the alleys for the trucks to pick up makes sense. But you've got to work with the city to create a no parking area on those days so that the people can put their trash out there. You need to do some coordination, even, I would even say, even in some of these tightly parked areas where there's maybe certain days that you can't park there, that lets the residents put the trash cans there. There's some logistics. The city's coming up with some street guidelines. And I think to overlay some of this on top of that, especially with Denver infill, which is going to remove all single family zoning and allow up to quadplexes on residential lots, you're going to have this multiply at scales we've not seen before. So when they start building those houses, these routes are going to get even more full with more trash bins. If each house has 4 units, that's 4, and then recycle and everything else. The logistics are going to become a nightmare, especially for parking. And just a quick note, something I've noticed with the trash cans, they're black. And when you put them out, sometimes people put them in the drive lane because there's no space. The cars can't see those at night. So I've actually seen some cars bumping into some of these things because it's dark and it's at night and it's in the street. So in the future, in making those containers, some reflective striping or something maybe needs to happen so that we're not having cars getting into accidents, hitting different things and causing damage.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. You talk about the carts, and we're actually looking right now at maybe making some improvements to the cart. So that's a great point. And once again, we're going to take a look at, you know, the whole system as we move forward here in Denver. We need to do things differently. We need to improve recycling, right? We need to improve composting for the city. And you know, I plan to stay here for a while and work through all the challenges that we have and make the best decisions for the city of Denver itself.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. I have one quick announcement before the end of our meeting. Teller Elementary, on our last meeting about the safety issues around there, has gotten feedback from Denver Public Schools, and DPS is going to step up and provide funding for additional crosswalk guards at all 4 intersections in the morning and the evening. They're going to provide some new signage and street painting to help better define parking and traffic control. Those were just some of the issues they were addressing. So the work does continue, but some positive things have happened. And that's about it for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for coming and for your feedback. And we'll do everything we can to keep you posted on additional changes in the traffic, in the trash pickup situation.